Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about a decision reversing a very high-handed, high-profile action a couple months ago by the administration closing down the Institute of Peace, United States Institute of Peace. Now, the Institute of Peace is a unusual governmental entity. It's sort of a hybrid of executive and legislative powers. And President Reagan established it in the 80s, and its job is, as it sounds, to try to promote different peace efforts around the world. We had, it seems so long ago, one of a series of really sort of brutal Gestapo style is not too strong a word here, actions by the administration. The president determined that the Institute of Peace was unnecessary. At the time, the statement from the White House is, well, they were established to facilitate peace, and we still don't have peace, so they are unnecessary. I'm not kidding. That was the actual statement. And they had this total showdown with many agents coming to the door and basically wanting to barge in and take the place over. The head of the institute and the others who were there apparently were prepared for it, and there was a whole sort of dramatic showdown, like a hostage situation, where they are getting social media out to people and letting them know this is happening in real time. And eventually, federal agents just forcibly, essentially evicted the people who were there and rammed in their own folks, or really no one. They had this brutal takeover. But then Trump's interpretation of these various stripping down of agencies is he's permitted to do it as he likes, when he likes, how he likes, so long as a skeletal staff of the quote-unquote statutory minimum remains in place. So the Institute of Peace took its stand, was forcibly evicted by federal agents from its place, tweeting out, this is ours, and they're simply taking over. And that's really what it was. We had basically pictures. It's a separate building, and they just, Gestapo style. It's, in this respect, Germany 33, just storming in. Okay. So the Institute of Peace sues, and the lawsuit goes to Judge Beryl Howell. You'll remember her. I think she's been really instrumental in the pushback against the Trump administration, including before she was chief judge during the period of the Biden presidency, or much of it. And therefore, a lot of motions fell to her where Trump was making outlandish claims for some kind of special relief in the criminal actions. And she was, standing pretty firm. Not 100%. She's not, a total reflexive judge, but she's a very strong minded one, solid one, very sort of, when her focus is in place, it is intense. And indeed, she issues today a 102-page opinion, 102 pages, completely mopping up the floor with the Trump administration and saying they had no right to do this in the first place, and they got to go like tomorrow. And the Institute of Peace folks may be reinstated. Of course, this is classic Trump stuff, where you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, or however they think about it. People have been ripped from their jobs. I doubt that they've all been sitting around doing nothing. They maybe have new jobs. The whole place is traumatized. But, the law doesn't respond like that, and the executive branch under Trump does. Okay, but let's go through her reasoning a little bit. What she says is, look, this is a joint, very special kind of entity set up by Congress and executive together. They exercise legislative and executive powers together. And it's not just the claim of the administration is this is just an executive branch agency. Now, exactly why they can argue that when it's by statute set up under both is a little bit unclear. It really seems like a might makes right kind of argument, but they do. And Howell is having none of it. What she basically says is you cannot do this unilaterally. You have to go to Congress. It's a joint agency or just entity. It's a special kind of, there are a few of these around, by the way. So, Trump has been indiscriminate in trying to ransack everything. Some are so-called independent executive agencies. Some have been, more clearly these kinds of hybrids, and this is one. So Howell says, look, you needed Congress's permission. You just can't go in there. You were like ultra-virus. She comes basically this close to saying jackbooted thugs with no right at all, just sort of showed up and pushed out this entity. Now, she does sort of cover her bases in the alternative. So remember the hovering case out there involving whether agencies can be made to have by Congress so that their heads can only be removed for cause. This is the Humphreys executor case from 1935, where the court so held. The current court has trimmed it back, but it has to do with a welter of factors involving, is there one head or multiple heads? How sort of core executive power is their exercise and their function. And the court has still left Humphrey's executor in place. Humphrey's executor was a multiple board as opposed to an individual one like the CFPB. And it doesn't exercise really sort of down the middle enforcement executive power. So as of now, that remains still the law, but the purists in the administration and on the Supreme Court see no place for what they deem a kind of headless fourth branch. And there's now a case in front of the Supreme Court presenting the issue, should Humphrey's executor be overruled? Affects all kinds of agencies. NLRB is the actual agency at issue in Humphrey's executor, and there are several that fit this description where there are fetters on the executive for removing. But Howell says first, this is not even executive power. It's some hybrid, and Humphrey's executor you just can't go in there. You might as well have been barging into the speaker's office in Congress, kicking everyone out and taking all the pencils and M&Ms. She also in the alternative, though, that to the extent, and what she means here is a higher court would find that they exercise some version of executive power, it's so minimal and modest that the principle of Humphrey's executor would cover them. The complete ransacking and shutting down would still be improper because they're a proper agency and the statutory structure indeed is constitutional. Either because it's not executive power in the first place or because to the extent it is, it qualifies under Humphrey's executor. Okay, so that's the law. And the ruling by a very well-respected judge and very methodical and comprehensive is significant in and of itself in the legal landscape that is developing over executive branch agencies and the ability to restrict the president to firing for cause. But then just separately, it's a small entity within the government, but I think it took on fairly large symbolic value when you just had agents showing up and basically physically pushing the staff and everybody out. And so now, a couple months later, not full relief in the way that the law can do, but no more. That's been remedied. That's been called out as being illegal. And it's to the extent you can. And the point is that extent is partial. You have to rewind the tape, get the hell out of there, you illegitimate federal agents storming in and kicking out the rightful possessors and occupants, and back to business as normal, to the extent it can still be normal, at the Institute of Peace under a very emphatic, strong, and critical kind of deeply offended even 102-page opinion by Judge Beryl Howell. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.